Have you ever experienced regret? Just sadness, wishing that you could do something over. Now, this podcast, this series, especially Healing from the Inside Out or Heal from the Inside Out, may be somewhat of a trigger for some people. But remember, even when I would teach my clients as a nurse, as a diabetes educator, coach, I would always tell them, I am here to inform you, not to scare you. And I believe beyond the symptoms that we have, the fear, how it can be paralyzing, leading to anxiety attack, what they label as an anxiety attack. When I say they, the medical field, I'm not here to do any of that. And I believe that beyond that is freedom. When you actually face whatever it is that's going on in your life right now, and you say, I'm going to look you in the eye. Because I know when I don't fear you, I begin to accept you, and then I can move on. As my mother would tell me, what after you accept things, that's when you can move forward. And I remember when I was around maybe somewhere between 10 and 11 years old, and it was after my experience with the cycle of pain. My second, what I consider my second kind of experience. I'm sure other things happen, but one of the major ones that can leave people um, with sadness, with regret, with anger, frustration. And I've talked about this before, but I remember standing in our front yard, and at one time I was upset because I'm like, she planted all kind of flowers in this front yard, and aren't children supposed to run in the yard and and be able to have fun in the grass. And I remember there would be times where I would walk barefoot in the grass, and that was what I later found out my mini sanctuary. And one day I said, you know what, I don't want to use the word mistakes. Sounds so horrible. So I'm going to use instead life lessons. And I wanted to learn from my life lessons, as well as, more importantly, I wanted to learn from others so I wouldn't repeat the same experiences. And I think that's what creating the epitome of creating a generational love cycle is, that how can I help others? How can I get myself through this, heal from the inside out? But how can I help others not to experience the same thing that I experienced? How can I help others to take out the trash of regret? How can I help others to remove weeds of regret? Because as you know, weeds tend to suck you dry, right? They try to promote their own growth. So they're going to steal that nourishing water and other nourishments, fertilizer that you give to kindness and goodness and compassion and all of those other virtues that we have inside of us. And so how can you remove that? And I think the biggest thing, what it boils down to, something I've always believed, and something that has, kind of come to my face and remembrance, Tamika, remember that your experiences do not define you. That as spiritual beings in human clothing, we are here to experience life, not to become it, not to become what we go through. And we can walk around with so much regret about what happened. Why did we make that choice? We start wondering what was wrong with us. We start wondering what's wrong with other people. And that's a dark cycle that I have often told people you don't want to go down. that twirling cycle. And how do you get back out of that cycle when you have gone down it? And I think the biggest thing that I have encouraged people to say is believe. Believe that regret are thoughts, accumulation of thoughts of sadness, disappointment, of your perception about what happened. And once we dig up those thoughts, we can replant new seeds. And that I knew what I knew at the time, and that there isn't any experience that I can take back. And so I'm going to choose to learn from it. And it's not to learn, okay, that I shouldn't trust men ever again, or I never go on a date, or I have this alternate lifestyle, whatever it may be. You choose to live your life to the best of your ability, despite what anyone said or didn't say, or did or didn't do. You rip up blame and shame and guilt, all of those things that can really continue to feed regret, right? Because many of these like minded emotions, these like minded weeds, thoughts, they feed off one another. And I am just here to say that you can live the life that you want. You have the power, excuse me, to do so. And I think just like regret and believing what those perceptions, I believed he harmed me. I believe she didn't do this and he did this and that. We can change that and say, I believe I did the best that I knew how. That even that person, whoever it was that didn't do or did do or didn't say or didn't say, they at that state of mind was doing the best they thought they could do. Right? Somewhere, even if the thought was, I shouldn't do this, but there was a competing thought in that I should, they somehow they weren't, I should say, elevated enough, conscious enough to see what they were doing. And you've heard even spiritual leaders, masters talk about sleep versus being awake. And I think even Eckhart Tolle discusses that. I could be wrong. Let me know, and I'll search it. But that we go through life, and I believe when we're thinking about the past, when we have so much sadness and disappointment about our actions and our thoughts, that we are sleepwalking through life. That we're not quite awake. That we're not quite conscious enough to say, you know what? I did what I did, and there's no turning back. But I'm going to learn, and I'm going to take that jewel, that treasure, and I'm going to apply it to the next situation. See, I remember, thoughts that came to me, and I've shared it before, where, now you're afraid of men. And it was almost like my mind, and I kid you not, went in warp speed in the future. And I went through all these experiences, and I came back to myself and said, no, you cannot live like that. That was the thought within a matter of seconds. And I think I know we have the power to create the thoughts that we want. We have the power to see experiences as they are, experiences. No definition, no bearing on who you are or who you are going to be, but an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to grow closer to the infinite wisdom and intelligence that is there, because that's what I want us to do. Have I had moments of, man, I wish I had done that? But I remember when I was sitting in my high school class and I started saying this even recently. That's why I'm so into, train a child how he or she will go, and when they're old, they won't forget it. They won't depart from it. And I think, that wisdom stays with us as adults, just like, experiences can. And I remember being in my history class, and I was thinking about something, and I didn't like my response or what have you. And I said, no worries, God will make the best of it. You know, and whether you believe in higher, whatever you call this higher intelligence, the one that created us and then some, whatever you call it, it's not, this is not what the podcast is about, but it's what you believe in that will ultimately shape how you navigate through life. What you believe in. Do you believe in good? Do you believe in evil? Do you allow what people do and say and don't do? Do you allow that to shape your reality? Or do you offer yourself this opportunity to see beyond the experiences, to see the shattered hopes, the dreams, to see the disappointments, to see the harm inflicted physically, emotionally, sexually, spiritually, projected pain on others that continues to be a cycle? And oh my gosh, this is for you as it is for me, that often we carry that regret on us, and it becomes how we cope with experiences, where we're shaping our friendships and other relationships. Do we allow people to come in? Do we invite people within our circle of influence? It shapes all that. It shapes our purpose. And missed opportunities, or I don't want to say missed opportunities, but I even do believe that we are given second chances, multiple chances. I just say second chances, that we also, there is grace, there's mercy in this life. And that although we may not make the best choice in the moment, we can look to this mercy and grace to say, you're going to get another opportunity. Let's see what you learn. Reflect me, show them me who created you. And that is a tall order, but it's something that can be done. How do we shape the future about regret? Is that we have to heal from the inside out first. We have to look at our experiences with an objective eye. That yes, this is what happened to me, but this is what I learned. This is who I choose to be. Because I believe just because something was done to me doesn't mean I have to be like that. It doesn't mean I have to do that. It doesn't define me, because when you allow things to define you, it changes how you think. It changes how you respond to business opportunities. It changes how you respond to female, male, whoever it may be, to children. And we can be the role model, the example that although I've been through this, as I'm teaching you, this does not define you. That you are greater than your experiences, and that you have control over how you see it, how you respond to it, and how you continue to live your life. We are powerful as the Course of Miracles than we know. I believe too that we're not using all of our brain power, all of our heart power, all of our spiritual power, that we limit ourselves because of this fear that we have about ourselves, the fear of not belonging, the fear of being seen too much, the fear of what other people think. Often that feeds regret too as well. You're so afraid of what other people could be thinking about you and not even know they're not even thinking about you. And even if they are, then that shows how they're using their mental thoughts, their mental thought patterns, their mind, because a mind is something that is so precious, that is linked to this infinite power. Our thoughts and how we can think about something or think about someone, and it brings us to that person comes to us. Why live in regret? Why continue to bring things like that in your life? That if my mind, and this is what I came to when I was living in Ohio, if I had a choice to think negative or positive, and whatever I thought that was going to come true, consistently thought, then I probably want to be thinking positive. I probably want to be thinking positive because I don't want to think negative. And you always say, you frame it so you're saying it that in a positive way. I want to be positive. I am positive about my experiences. I am in control of my thoughts and my mind, how my beliefs and my perceptions. I am in control of my physical, my behavior, and that we have to believe that. And I think it puts us back in the driver's seat that, you know what, no, I'm not going to live in regret. I'm going to learn from that experience. And I bet you one thing, that I'm not going to repeat that again. you know um, and it's not so much of just really focusing on that, but really just really wanting to live your life. It's wonderful still out here, being we have all these countries and states, and the ability to travel, and the ability to harness our superpowers, our gifts, our talents, and to make a living. And although we may not always make the best decisions, but I think in that, because we learn from that experience, here's what I think that we can have an experience, and we think it may be horrible, but we learn from it, and we have another experience that's almost like a higher level of experience, right? I believe that we get a higher level of experience, and whatever we just learned, we're supposed to take that in the experience, and we become more thankful, because it's like, man, I learned that from that. I'm glad I didn't go through this doing the same thing I did for the previous experience, right? So you get what I'm saying, that we're supposed to take that to a higher level experience, just like if you're going from kindergarten to first grade. You learn something in kindergarten and first grade, guess what? You know not to do it anymore, right? And so I think that's how life is. That as we go up this ladder of self actualization, as we get higher in alignment with our spirit and our personality, higher spirit, that we're climbing higher and higher. We're becoming one with personality and spirit. And, eventually anything that does not belong in our alignment falls off. And we should not feel disappointed or anything about it. We should know that whatever does not belong to me will eventually fall out. So we take time, and I believe on the weekends, Sunday is usually our rest day, but you take time and you really see, you allow your mind to be still. And I think that's so important, is that going out in nature, especially summer, where we're summer, warm weather, and to just allow your mind to be still. And whatever comes up, know that is for your best. That is for in preparation for your next stage in life. This is Tamika Chambers with Create a Generational Love Cycle. And as I've shared today, regret can be a powerful feeling, but it's not as powerful as you are. That you have the ability, that you can determine your thoughts, your beliefs, your perspective, and that you can learn more about yourself to take that to a higher level of education, of curriculum, your spiritual, your curriculum that you're here to go through here on earth. And there's nothing about there's just nothing about saying that you have to compare your life with others, but know that whatever you're going through is for you. Is for you to reflect the truth. Is for you to harness your virtues of compassion and forgiveness and love and kindness on yourself and on others. We have the ability to do that. And there's no shame, no blame, no guilt, no regret when we're talking about our children about it. Yes, that's something that happened, but this is what I learned. And my job as a parent, my role as we create this generational love cycle, is to share these experiences with you at the right time, in the right words, the right manner, to help guide you so that you don't end up having the same experience. And if you do, you know how to handle them, right? All right, you guys, I have started my notes on life newsletter empowering you to be you, and I will have the link here in this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing your comments or seeing your comments. I'll talk to you guys soon. Make this lifetime great. Have a wonderful weekend. You have the power, you have the right to heal from the inside out, and especially with taking out the trash of regret. Talk to you guys soon.